This is the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. A huge crowd of students has gathered outside the gates. They're demanding the extradition of the deposed Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. For decades, he ruled Iran as an authoritarian monarch supported by the United States. The students are radical supporters of the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini. They've been protesting here for weeks. But today is different. Suddenly, they begin to climb the walls. Hundreds storm the embassy grounds. The security guards aren't authorized to fire their weapons. The protesters meet almost no resistance and they quickly break in. They capture 52 U.S. citizens and hold them hostage for 444 days. For their captives, it's a nightmare. For the U.S., it's the start of a major international crisis. In the months that follow, U.S. President Jimmy Carter tries to negotiate with the Iranian militants. But Iran is now run by Ayatollah Khomeini, who openly supports the hostage-takers. The negotiations run through Algeria, which acts as a mediator. Communication between Algeria and Iran is encrypted. No one can read or listen in. Or so they believe. But after every exchange, Carter knows exactly what the Iranians are saying behind closed doors. How is that possible? The answer leads to Switzerland and a company called Crypto AG. The devices it builds are at the center of a clandestine operation that shaped world politics for over half a century. Because Crypto AG has two secret co-owners, the CIA and Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, the BND.
Americans have been the victims of a terrorist attack in Europe.
To me, the most surprising thing here was the enormity of this.
Series of strikes against the headquarters.
Argentina launched the invasion of the Falkland Islands.
This is Operation Rubicon, one of the biggest intelligence coups of the 20th century.
The story was enormous for us, for the Washington Post. I mean, for days and days. For, I think, almost a week. It was one of the most read stories on our website. And my interactions with U.S. intelligence people throughout this period were kind of funny. Like, some of them were like, I wish you hadn't done that. But others were like, yeah, how cool. Like, we were part of that. That's what we do.
This is Greg Miller. He's an investigative journalist with the Washington Post. We traveled to London to interview him for this video. Back in 2020, he broke the story that our research for this video is based on, together with the German and Swiss broadcasters ZDF and SRF. Links are in the description. Chapter 1. The Handshake. Operation Rubicon begins with a friendship. Washington, D.C., 1951. Two men meet for dinner at the exclusive, members-only Cosmos Club. This man, William Friedman, is one of the American military's leading cryptologists. The man in front of him is Boris Hagelin, an entrepreneur and inventor from Sweden. Friedman and Hagelin are business partners. More importantly, they're close friends. They write each other frequently and bond over their shared background and interests. Both were born in pre-Soviet Russia. Both love tinkering, and both are deeply fascinated by cryptology, the science of encoding and decoding information. Boris Hagelin develops cipher machines, small mechanical devices that allow users to write and read secret messages. His biggest customer is the U.S. military. During World War II, Hagelin sells them the M209, a compact, portable cipher machine that doesn't require electricity. Just bigger than a lunchbox, it comes with a lightweight canvas bag that soldiers can easily attach to their gear. American troops frequently use it in the field to quickly exchange encrypted messages. The U.S. produces more than 140,000 units, and Hagelin becomes a millionaire. But after World War II, business suddenly slows down, so he needs new customers.
Friedman realizes Hagelin is a good enough businessman that if the United States doesn't act, he's going to start selling cryptological devices to many, many governments around the world, and the United States will not be able to read these communications, will be blind and deaf to what other countries are doing and saying. And so this leads to all these conversations in Washington about what to do about it.
Friedman meets Hagelin for dinner and makes him an offer on behalf of the CIA. From now on, Hagelin's high-security cipher machines will only be sold to selected countries hand-picked by the Americans. the rest of the world will get older models that are much easier to crack. To compensate for the business he loses, Hagelin is said to have received $700,000. A year later, he moves his Swedish company to a Swiss town called Zug, where he founds Crypto AG. That same year, the company releases the CX52. This new cipher machine is so complex, many believe it's uncrackable. But is it really? Chapter 2. Crypto. To understand how secret messages are encrypted, we track down a real cipher machine. And not just any cipher machine, an actual model developed by Hagelin.
Das ist eine CX52-Maschine von der Crypto AG.
Cryptography turns an ordinary sentence like this one into an illegible jumble of letters. Each letter in a message is replaced by another, seemingly at random. So while anyone can read the encrypted message, they won't actually understand it unless they have the right key. Say we want to send an encrypted message from Amsterdam to Berlin. The first thing we need is the same type of machine on both ends. Then, both sides need to know the daily key, which is basically the machine's default setting for the day. It determines how the key wheels in the revolving drum are configured. The so-called message key is a short-term setting for each specific message and determines which letter or number is on top of each key wheel. To encrypt a word, you select each of the letters on this disk one at a time. Each time, you pull this crank. This is what it looks like inside the machine. Several wheels start to move. Each time you do this, the machine generates a new and seemingly random code. But mechanical systems like this one don't produce arbitrary results. They can't. Most follow fixed instructions or algorithms and are designed to eliminate randomness. So no matter how complex the algorithms are, they can usually be reproduced. Inside the machine, each letter is assigned a new letter. A rotating drum prints this new letter onto a strip of paper, which will eventually carry the whole secret message.
Also wir müssen uns jetzt ein Wort überlegen, dann können wir das mal verschlüsseln.
Let's try this one. That's our input word in encrypted form. Now we can send this super secret message to its recipient in Berlin, by radio, for example, using Morse code. To decrypt it, the receiver also needs a CX52 set to the same daily key and message key. Both sides must have previously agreed on a system that allows them to use the exact same keys and settings. Most of the time, they probably use a shared key sheet indicating the correct settings for each day. This mode selector lets you switch between D and C. D is for deciphering and C is for ciphering. When we enter the coded word letter by letter, the machine recreates the original top secret message. Cheers. Yeah, it's not exactly state secrets. We're YouTubers, all right? The CX52 comes in different variants which differ mainly in their shape, color, and controls. They all work the same way, except one. The one-time pad version is so secure that not even the NSA can crack it. Instead of the usual key wheels, this model runs a perforated paper strip through the machine. This sequence of these holes is truly random, making each pattern completely unique. To read one of these encrypted messages, the receiver needs a paper strip identical to the one used by the sender. This is essentially a temporary key to the lock. It's only ever used once and is destroyed immediately after. So, is your spidey sense tingling? All right, before you go all sponsor block, check this out for a second. A Cold War encryption machine is on your mind and you're worried about ops intercepting your communications. I get it, but the more likely threat, it's online. No paper slip or cipher machine required. Your personal data might be out there, just harvested by data brokers instead of the BND. Your name, address, phone number, browsing habits, all sitting in hundreds of sketchy databases sold to whoever pays. Incogni gets it removed. It finds those people search sites and data brokers quietly profiting off your information and forces them out, automatically and repeatedly. Incogni's custom removal feature even lets you flag a specific site, and a real human privacy expert handles it for you. Back then, you couldn't opt out. With Incogni, you can. Try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to incogni.com/FernTV or scan this QR code and use FernTV for 60% off. The CX52 is a huge success. Hagelin sells it to dozens of countries, and he faithfully honors his agreement with Friedman and the United States. The new machines are also sold only to select states. But
over time, that starts to break down. Hagelin becomes frustrated by this. He's giving up lots of money. He's leaving lots of sales untapped because of his willingness to abide by these constraints that the Americans are putting on him. Ultimately, Washington realizes this and decides to make this a more formal arrangement with Hagelin.
The CIA makes him another offer. They'll help market his crypto devices worldwide, and not just to CIA-approved countries. They want as many governments as possible to exclusively use Hagelin's cipher machines. But there's a catch. The CIA demands he produce 2 different versions of the CX-52. The first is a highly secure, essentially unbreakable variant reserved for countries the US considers friendly. Everyone else gets a weaker version that the CIA can easily crack. Hagelin once again agrees. And once again, he doesn't walk away empty-handed. This time, he reportedly receives nearly $900,000, which would be roughly $10 million today. On top of that, he's said to have received $70,000 a year as a retainer.
So Hagelin at that point crosses an important threshold. He's gone from being sort of a passive but important ally of the West, Western governments led by the United States, to an active participant on the payroll of US intelligence, an asset.
For many years, journalists and investigators wondered how exactly the machines were manipulated. It's almost impossible to tell from the outside. That's because there isn't just one machine, but many different versions with different internal settings. In 2021, Dutch IT expert Bart Wessel compared several CX-52s with older C-52 models. And he noticed something strange. The bars in the revolving drum have tiny metal lugs attached to them. These lugs slide to the left and determine whether or not the key wheels advance. But in older C-52 models, 30 of the 32 bars are completely blocked, held in place by 6 metal discs. Only the last 2 slide bars can actually move. The rest are effectively dead. As a result, the C-52 produces far simpler and more predictable patterns, and therefore much weaker encryption. So crypto and the CIA either equipped customers with outdated crackable models like the C-52, or they gave them modern CX-52s secretly configured to behave like older, less secure models. Another way to make the machines less secure is to prevent them from being used properly. The NSA reportedly created different manuals for different customers. Some may have been deliberately rigged. Users believed their machine was operating securely, but they were like locks that clicked but never really snapped shut. Our machine is one of these less secure variants. Our message from Amsterdam to Berlin probably would have been decrypted quickly. By the late 1960s, Boris Hagelin is almost 80 years old. Crypto AG has grown to 180 employees.
Hagelin is looking to get out of his business. He's getting older. He wants to retire. He wants to secure the future of this company.
Only one of his children is interested in cryptography. His youngest son, Bo Hagelin Jr. Bo works at Crypto and is actively involved in developing new machines. He also handles the company's business in North and South America. Bo has yet to prove himself, but eventually Hagelin Sr. would like to hand his son control over the company. But the CIA doesn't trust him. They think he's unpredictable. And while Bo knows the company's dark secret, he doesn't approve. At the same time, other players are starting to take an interest in crypto.
It's true that other countries and other governments, especially allied governments, are to certain degrees aware of what's happening here. But they're sharing that intelligence with their closest allies at various times, including the Brits, at times including the French, and sometimes the Germans. They're not always saying where this information comes from, but these other governments are putting 2 and 2 together and starting to figure out what this is. And they're jealous.
Hagelin's son is looking less and less like his father's successor. Now married, he's struggling financially. He asks for advances on his inheritance often enough that his father finally refuses. The CIA is concerned too. They suspect Bo may have been talking about the secret operation and worry he might refuse to continue selling the manipulated machines. Bo's relationships with the CIA and his father start to fray. Meanwhile, Germany's intelligence service, the BND, proposes a deal to the CIA. In June 1970, each agency purchases half of Crypto AG. Hagelin receives 25 million Swiss francs in 3 installments. According to the Washington Post, that amounts to over $5.75 million at the time. Bo remains with the company, at first. According to the same report, the deal is routed through a law firm in the European microstate of Liechtenstein. The use of anonymous shell companies helps the 2 intelligence agencies conceal their ownership. The BND and the CIA now have full control over Crypto AG, and almost no one knows. Hagelin makes a fortune with this deal, but just a few months later, all that money probably seems virtually worthless. Bo dies in a car accident near Washington, D.C. Hagelin is devastated. Many years later, a former crypto employee will publicly claim the car accident was actually a targeted attack. He also claims that even Hagelin Sr. had doubts about the crash and that he had the case investigated, but nothing ever came of it. A journalist and intelligence expert tells us that at the time, even the BND's vice president suspected Bo's death wasn't an accident. American intelligence services may have feared that Bo would use his role as sales manager for Latin America to stop selling manipulated machines in the region. No evidence has surfaced to support these claims. After his son's death, Boris Hagelin withdraws from the company. After the takeover by the BND and the CIA in 1970, business at Crypto AG takes off. This leaked CIA document shows sales surging. In the first 5 years alone, revenue jumps from 15 to 51 million Swiss francs. Governments around the world trust crypto machines with their most sensitive communications.
This becomes a real point of tension in this operation between the United States and the Germans. From the minute the Germans are involved, they're often deeply troubled by what they perceive as American greed. Americans, they think, the Germans think, are willing to trick, dupe, exploit anybody. The Germans are less comfortable with that, partly because of their World War II history, partly because they're trying to build new alliances in Europe at this time. They don't want to make enemies across Europe. The Americans don't really care as much.
In the end, the Germans' discomfort doesn't matter. The secret intelligence operation is just getting started. Its original code name is Thesaurus.
Chapter 3. The Operation.
April 5, 1986, West Berlin. The vibes at the Labelle nightclub are especially good tonight. Hundreds of people are dancing to funk and soul. The club is popular with the American soldiers stationed in the city. But sometime after midnight, a bomb explodes inside the club. 2 people die at the scene, a woman of Turkish descent and an American soldier. Another dies from his injuries at the hospital. Exact numbers vary depending on the source, but more than 100 are wounded, at least 28 of them severely. It's one of the most severe attacks against Americans on German soil. The White House responds within days. President Reagan publicly blames Libya for the attack. The country's leader, Muammar Gaddafi, is accused of ordering the bombing. But how could he possibly know that so quickly? Well, Libya uses the weaker Hagelin machines to encrypt its communications. The BND and the CIA can simply read along. Reagan says Libya's embassy in East Berlin received the order to carry out the attack about a week before it happened. According to a 2020 report by German broadcaster ZDF, it remains unclear whether the intelligence agencies also knew about the plans before the attack. Retaliation comes 10 days later. According to media reports, the United States bombed several targets in Libya, killing at least 60 people. In the 1980s, the operation's codename is changed from Thesaurus to Rubicon. It's a reference to the phrase crossing the Rubicon, which means passing the point of no return. The intelligence agencies crossed that line for good when they began actively influencing a war. The conflict revolves around this archipelago in the South Atlantic, a few hundred kilometers off the coast of Argentina. Britain has controlled the Falkland Islands since the 19th century, but Argentina has long claimed them as its own. Early one Friday morning in 1982, Argentine forces attempt to seize the islands. The British garrison of just 68 men faces hundreds of Argentinian soldiers. Eventually, they're forced to surrender. But Britain quickly sends reinforcements, and the 2 countries fight for over 70 days. The Argentinians have no clue their cipher machines are compromised. Their radio comms are being intercepted, and both the Americans and Germans are able to decrypt them. Intel relevant to the Falklands War is quietly funneled to Britain. On May 2, a British submarine, the HMS Conqueror, sneaks up on an Argentine cruiser, the Belgrano. Once it's within range, it launches its torpedoes, which hit home. More than 300 Argentinian soldiers die in the attack. Intercepted radio communications played a crucial role in the decision to destroy the ship. On June 14, 1982, Britain officially wins the war. Around 900 people have lost their lives. The Falkland Islands remain under British control. According to Swiss broadcaster SRF, the intercepted messages were decisive for the outcome of the war.
Many of the countries that bought crypto devices were in Latin America, and this is during a period where Latin America is in turmoil. There are military coups after military coups. There are death squads. There are murders, state-sponsored murders and suppression of populations. And there are still huge questions.
1978, 4 years before the Falklands War. Argentina is hosting the FIFA World Cup. West Germany is playing Austria in the second group stage. The world is watching as the German national team fights to defend its title. But just 11 kilometers away, people are fighting for their lives. This is a brutal detention center for opponents of the Argentine military junta. At the time, the country is ruled by a ruthless dictatorship. Critics of the regime are abducted, tortured, and killed. Campo de la Ribera is one of the junta's most important detention centers in the region. In total, 4,000 people are brought here over the years. The Argentine military uses crypto devices to encrypt its communications. But at a spy station in northern Germany, their messages are intercepted and deciphered by the BND. What they discover is horrifying. Military planes are flying thousands of dissidents out over the Atlantic Ocean, then dropping them to their deaths. And Germany and the US simply look on, essentially bystanders as an estimated 30,000 people become victims of the dictatorship. Ahead of the World Cup, several human rights organizations call for a boycott of the event, but West Germany participates anyway. Argentina ends up winning the tournament. Why didn't the intelligence agencies do anything?
This is always a dilemma for intelligence agencies. You learn information through delicate programs. Do you act on it? Because if you do, you risk ruining that access going forward. You risk exposing what let you obtain that secret in the first place.
Besides, this is still in the middle of the Cold War.
Alliances with dictators, with military rulers, including those that were committing atrocities against their own citizens. At times, these are things that the American government was willing to accept to prevent these countries from falling into communist regimes.
According to the investigation by the Washington Post and ZDF, Crypto AG did business with more than 100 countries. 62 of them could be identified. Besides NATO member states, many of the customers were countries in South America and Africa. Even the Vatican used crypto machines, and its communications were intercepted too. For a long time, crypto devices inspired a high level of trust. A company from Switzerland just had to be neutral, right? But after nearly 30 years, some customers began to question the security of their cipher machines. When the operation started in the early 1970s, only a handful of people knew about crypto's secret deal. One was Peter Frutiger, possibly the company's most important engineer. In 2020, he gave an interview to the Swiss newspaper NZZ. Until 1977, Frutiger was the company's deputy director and head of development. He was also the link between Crypto AG and the two intelligence agencies. He's said to have made dozens of visits to the BND headquarters near Munich and regular trips to the US to meet with intelligence officials. At first, he doesn't have a problem keeping crypto secret. He thinks he's on the right side of history, aiding in the grand fight against the forces of evil in the world. But a high-profile client makes him doubt this stance. Of all people, it's an autocrat, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran. A few years before his dramatic downfall, the Shah wants to upgrade his Swiss village security with new cipher technology from crypto. He's friends with Frutiger, who takes care of the job personally. During the job, the two men talk. Suddenly, the Shah says he's heard about manipulated cipher machines circulating on the market. But not Hageland's devices, of course. Those are the only ones left he can trust. The Shah doesn't know that his own machines have been tampered with. But Frutiger does. And he's starting to feel guilty about it. By 1977, his internal conflict reaches a breaking point, and he confronts crypto's executives. According to him, this leads to irreconcilable differences. Frutiger leaves the company, contacts the Swiss authorities, and becomes a whistleblower. Many years later, he goes public with his story. But he won't be the first to expose the secret intelligence operation to the world.
Chapter 4. The Downfall.
Hans Bühler is considered one of crypto's best salesmen. He travels the world to sell Hageland's cipher machines. He doesn't know about the company's secret. He has close connections in Iran, and the country is one of crypto's biggest clients. In March 1992, he flies to Tehran for a routine business trip and doesn't come back. Before his return, he's arrested and taken to a military prison. The Iranians interrogate him for months. the regime appears to suspect that Hageland's machines are rigged. Bueller can hear other inmates being shot and tortured. The interrogations drag on for hundreds of hours and produce nothing. He really doesn't know anything. After 9 months, Crypto pays Iran $1 million ransom to secure Bueller's release. According to the Washington Post, the money is secretly provided by the BND. The CIA refuses to chip in, citing a policy that forbids giving in to ransom demands. Bueller is finally free, but deeply traumatized. Crypto no longer wants to work with him. And that's when his doubts begin. Were the Iranians right after all? Is Crypto really hiding a sinister secret? Bueller takes his suspicions to the press, putting Crypto AG in the global spotlight.
There's a real complicated moral dimension to operations like this when it starts affecting people's lives. They're pawns. They're used, they're exploited, they're manipulated, and they're discarded, right? I mean, Bueller's life was ruined by this. He's tried many years to get people to believe him, that this was an illegal, an immoral operation.
Bueller's statements are backed by others, including Peter Frutiger, who's still an anonymous source at the time. Several countries respond by canceling their contracts with Crypto, including Argentina, Italy, and Egypt. Ironically enough, Iran does not. In fact, the country starts buying new machines almost immediately. Despite multiple investigations into the matter, the case never reaches court. There's not enough solid evidence. But the relationship between the CIA and the BND is damaged for good. In 1993, the BND pulls out of the operation. According to the Washington Post, the CIA buys up their Crypto shares for $17 million. And according to the Post, the operation continues all the way to 2018. In 2020, intelligence documents are leaked to the Washington Post and the German and Swiss channels ZDF and SRF. A 96-page CIA report intended for internal use chronicles the entire operation. Its claims are confirmed by an intelligence expert who had access to the document. It's called Minerva, A History. Together, journalists analyze the report. Greg Miller from the Washington Post is part of that joint effort.
To me, the most surprising thing here was the enormity of this in some ways. It was not that the U.S. intelligence agency would do something secret and that it would be successful, but that it could do so over a period of many decades. That it could do so by tricking dozens, many over 100 other governments.
Later that same year, the story breaks, and the repercussions are surprisingly feeble. Germany doesn't launch any investigations or court proceedings. Switzerland opens a formal inquiry, but so far, nothing has come of it. Neither the BND nor the CIA has ever publicly commented on the operation. The leaked reports reveal further explosive details. Like many internal intelligence documents, they contain several code names. Crypto AG is called Minerva, the CIA is EOS, and the BND becomes Gamma. But then there are also these two code names. Olympia and Navajo refer to two major technology companies, German conglomerate Siemens and American multinational Motorola. According to the Washington Post, Siemens advised Crypto on business and technical issues and received 5% of the company's sales in return. The US apparently brought in Motorola later on. Cooperation between private companies and intelligence agencies is nothing unusual. It's even regulated by law. German telecommunications companies are required to cooperate with law enforcement and intelligence agencies to facilitate interception and surveillance. In the United States, certain types of foreign intelligence collection rely on compelled assistance from American telecommunications companies. Despite these leaks, many questions are still unanswered. What information did the intelligence agencies actually intercept? How exactly did they acquire Crypto through the Liechtenstein Trust Company? And what about the allegations that the BND continued intercepting certain communications for years after formally withdrawing from the op? According to the ZDF report, the BND received hints about the World Trade Center attacks before September 11, 2001. One intercepted message allegedly contained information about the future hijackers the BND allegedly didn't pass on in time. Whether that information could have helped prevent the attacks, we'll never know. Even today, we're probably only aware of fragments of the full operation and a fraction of its true scale. We asked the BND for comment. The agency told us that, on principle, it doesn't publicly comment on intelligence findings or activities. Crypto was eventually broken up. Two new firms took over almost the entire business. Both emphasized they no longer have any ties to either the CIA or the BND. Giuliano Ott served as CEO of Psi One Security AG until 2024. Before that, He was the CEO of the original Crypto AG. His tenure started in 2001 and lasted through the years the company was still secretly controlled by the CIA. When the Washington Post broke its story, the company issued a statement declining to comment on crypto's history. Who knows which companies intelligence agencies are secretly working with today?
If you're at Google, you're at Microsoft, or you're at Verizon or a big cellular company, and the government comes to you and says, look, our ability to prevent another terror attack like 9/11 depends on whether we can figure out and trace these networks from Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State. And we can only do that if we can get to the data that you have. It's hard for companies to turn away the government under that kind of pressure.